listener production.
From the briefing team,
This is The Beefing. Hey, it's Helen Smith here. Welcome to The Beefing. Today's beef is on Pete Evans versus the TGA. Let's get into it. Pete Evans is an Australian celebrity chef turned wellness warrior who is best known for being a judge on My Kitchen Rules before rebranding himself from nightlight restaurateur to Paleo Pete.
The flavour is there.
I disagree. The combination of everything on that plate, it was very hard to eat. I score you a 4.
But the former celebrity chef has been back in the headlines over the last couple of years for his controversial views on the health and wellness space and has been heavily criticised for spreading misinformation around vaccinations and pseudoscience, resulting in beefs and feuds with doctors, health professionals, and the Therapeutic Goods Administration, or the TGA, which we'll get into a little later. Firstly, though, how did Pete make a name for himself? He started training as a chef and then he became a celebrated chef with his brother after opening Hugo's in Bondi back in 1996. Then Hugo's Lounge in 2000 and Hugo's Bar Pizza in 2004. And over the years, the restaurants in the Hugo's group were awarded 8 Sydney Morning Herald Chef's Hats, 21 Best in Australia Awards and 3 Best Pizza in Australia Awards at the Australian Fine Food Show. And whilst running the Hugo's empire, this is where he met future fellow MKR co-host Manu Fidel, who actually sent in his resume to work with Pete. Then, in 2005, Hugo's won Best Pizza in the World at the American Pizza Challenge in New York City. And while the Oprah, was visiting Australia back in 2011, she even gave her tick of approval to Hugo's Bar Pizza. So yeah, Pete was a big deal at the time in the restaurant world. And then in 2010, he becomes a judge with co-host Manu on MKR. And he stayed on the show for around 10 years. But his reportedly $800,000 contract ended in 2020 following plummeting ratings and his feud with the TGA after they fined him more than $25,000 and issued 2 infringement notices to his company, which he was the sole director and company secretary. But we'll get into that a little later. Firstly, though, to give you a bit of background, the TGA is Australia's government authority responsible for evaluating, assessing, regulating and monitoring products that are defined as therapeutic goods. So think health-related products like medicines prescribed by a doctor or a dentist or even ones available over the counter, and even things like vitamins, herbal and traditional medicines, and of course, vaccines. So how did Pete end up here, going from celebrity TV judge on a top-rating cooking show to getting fined by a health regulator? There are a number of examples, but today we're going to break down just some of the biggest feuds that sort of led to it. Starting back in 2015, when Pete's cookbook of recipes for children, Baba Yum Yum, was pulled from publication after a recipe was discovered to be potentially fatal for babies. His recipe for DIY milk formula made from liver and bone broth had 10 times the safe limit of vitamin A, and baby formulas are regulated in Australia. Nevertheless, during one of his live stage shows on the Paleo Pete, he had this to say about that.
And we're going to show you some delicious recipes as well, using some of my favourite ingredients such as offal and broth. And no, it won't kill your babies.
And then in 2016, he said that sunscreen was full of poisonous chemicals, telling his 1.5 million followers at the time during a Q&A on Facebook that, quote, "The silly thing is people put on normal chemical sunscreen, then lay out in the sun for hours on end and think that they are safe because they have covered themselves in poisonous chemicals, which is a recipe for disaster, as we are witnessing these days. We need to respect the sun, but not hide from it either, as it is so beneficial for us, but use common sense. The goal is always never to burn yourself." And when asked about those claims in 2017 during Channel 7's Spotlight interview, Pete had this to say.
And I said generally none, because we only go out of the sun for 30 minutes or so and try to do that every single day because so many of us are lacking vitamin D. But I did say in that comment, I said, but if we go out in the middle of the day for long periods of time when we're going to go for a surf, then I use a non-toxic sunscreen. So this is what I've got on the kids' faces here and putting on my own here. Because a lot of sunscreens, as I said, are full of sort of toxic chemicals that you just would not put on your face or for your kids' faces. So I've never said don't use sunscreen. I've just said make sure you choose one that is the least toxic that's out there.
Then, that same year in 2017, Pete produced and narrated a Netflix documentary called The Magic Pill, which promoted the ketogenic diet. And the film claimed that the diet can help manage autism, asthma, and cancer. This film had doctors in the Australian Medical Association demanding for Netflix to take it down, calling it irresponsible and warning that this portrayal of a ketogenic diet as a cure-all could have harmful effects for vulnerable people. The film showcased that a ketogenic diet or keto diet helped one case study, a child, deal with autism, and that the diet also helped shrink a woman's breast cancer tumour, which brings us to his beef with the TGA. This case started after the TGA received a number of complaints after the promotion of a device called a biocharger during a Facebook live stream in April 2020. This biocharger was being sold for $15,000 a piece, and critics were calling it a glorified lava lamp. And during the live video, Pete said it's programmed with thousands of different recipes, and there's a couple in there for the Wuhan coronavirus.
It's on my website if anyone's interested. You can go to Pete Evans and then products. But it's we've had it for the last 4 or 5 months up at the farm. We use it pretty much every day. It's a pretty amazing tool. It'll take you down some rabbit holes, so it'll take me an hour or two to explain it. But I do have a podcast coming very shortly. That's running a limitless program that's 30 minutes. And so there we go. But just briefly, it's programmed with about 1,000 different recipes. There's a couple on there for Wuhan coronavirus.
Pete's website, which he mentioned there, also claimed that the biocharger was proven to restore strength, stamina, coordination, and mental clarity if one sat in front of it for a period of time. And at the time, the creators of the device released a statement distancing themselves from Pete's claims and emphasized that the biocharger NG is not a medical device and it's not intended for use in the diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of diseases or any other conditions. And the TGA ultimately said that there was no apparent foundation for Pete's claims that the biocharger could have any effect on the virus and issued 2 infringements totaling $25,200. One of the infringements was related to the claim in the Facebook video, and the other had to do with the claims on Pete's website. Now, it was because Pete mentioned COVID-19 that the TGA came down on him so hard, because at the time they were on the lookout for advertisers trying to exploit the current climate around COVID-19. Now, side note, in November 2020, Pete was let go by Channel 10 the day he was due to start filming I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, after his publisher and multiple brands dumped him for posting a cartoon that included a neo-Nazi symbol on his social media accounts. Pete later apologized to people who misinterpreted the cartoon and claimed that he didn't realize. And in December 2020, Pete's Facebook page was deleted because his posts violated the company's misinformation policies. And then in February 2021, his Instagram account was shut down for repeatedly sharing misinformation about COVID-19 and vaccines. But despite the bans, Pete maintained a social media presence under pages associated with his businesses, Paleo Way and Evolve Network. Back to the TGA though. After those 2 infringements of $25,200 in April 2020, the TGA in May 2021 hit Pete with nearly $80,000 in fines, 6 infringement notices, and directed his company to take down non-compliance advertising related to the biocharger, along with hyperbaric oxygen therapy chambers and 2 oral medicines, saying due to the repeated nature of the alleged advertising breaches, the TGA has also issued a directions notice to Mr. Evans and his company to cease advertising therapeutic goods not entered in the Australian Register of Therapeutic Goods and to discontinue making various claims about therapeutic products. So, Pete was ordered to remove the posts and to stop advertising unapproved products and therapies, which brings us to now. He's still sharing content across social media, including his support of Trump and the MAGA movement.
I think right now is the time that we need to be educating ourselves, empowering ourselves and sharing this information far and wide. And yes, make Australia, make America great again. This is what it's about. We have this one choice. You could say, yeah, I'm going to say it, go Trump. Peace and love to everybody.
And he's even released a cookbook, the MAHA Cookbook, Real Food, Real Change, Real Health. Now, MAHA stands for Make America Healthy Again, and it's funded by one of America's largest anti-vaccine groups and inspired by the groundbreaking MAHA Commission report and championed by leaders like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And health experts, so I'm talking doctors and scientists, have all warned against diets like keto and paleo for children. So this beef between Pete Evans and the TGA has simmered down for the moment, but I'm sure this won't be the last time Pete makes it back into our news cycle. But that's it for today's beefing on Pete Evans versus the TGA. If you like this episode, let us know. And while you're there, if you could subscribe or follow wherever you're listening from, it's a really easy way you can support everything we do here at The Briefing. And you can check us out on Instagram and YouTube at The Briefing Podcast. I'm Helen Smith. Catch you next time.